Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our latest Railbookers webinar. Great to have you here with us this Tuesday afternoon. I can see that we've still got a few people joining in as we speak, so hello if you're just tuning in. What we'll do is we'll just pause for around about another minute or so, just to allow those of you who are just arriving time to get settled in and comfortable, get the speakers unmuted, make sure the sound's working, all of those things. So if you were in the middle of finishing off a cup of coffee or something, wondering, do you have time to finish it? I think you do. We'll meet back here again in around about another minute's time. So once again, for the benefit of anyone who's just arriving, welcome. We'll start properly in around about another minute, just so everyone's had time to get settled in and get themselves comfortable. So looking forward to speaking to you all again in round about 1 minute's time. Hello again, and welcome to those of you who've just joined us. Great to have you here on our latest Railbookers webinar. I hope everybody is settled in and comfortable. Our webinar today is Discover the USA by Rail. So just to run through the format and how things will work for the benefit of anyone who perhaps hasn't attended one of these before, we'll start off with a very brief introduction, which is really for the benefit of those of you less familiar with who we are and what we do. And then we'll move on to the main part of the webinar and look at some of our most popular holidays exploring the USA by train. If you have questions at any point, feel free to use the questions box on the screen, and hopefully we'll have time to pick one or two to answer at the end of the webinar. If I don't manage to get round to yours, don't despair. One of the team will reach out to you over the next 24 hours and we'll answer every single one by hook or by crook. So if I don't pick you today, don't worry. We often get quite a few coming in and there just isn't time to answer them all, sadly, but we'll make sure we get back to each and every one of you who submit a question. Okay, let's make a start. My name's Matt, that's me on the screen. My pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. So first things first, I need to make you aware that we do currently have a flash sale taking place where you can make some great savings, saving up to £350 on a variety of different holidays to different locations around the world. If you would like to know more and find out which holidays are applicable, how it all works, then the place to head to is our website, railbookers.co.uk. You can get all the information there, or if you prefer, you can give us a call. The number is at the bottom of the screen, or equally, it's on our website as well. But you've only got up until the 29th of October to take advantage of these savings, so you need to make sure you get in quickly. As I mentioned, a brief introduction for the benefit of those of you new to Railbookers and what we do. So firstly, just to outline a little bit why travellers love Railbookers and taking our holidays by train. And the answer to that really is that there isn't just one answer. There's a number of different things. Firstly, there's the all-important rail expert knowledge, or as we like to say, we speak rail, and that goes into everything from knowing the best combinations, the best routes to travel between different destinations, the best timings, all those crucial things that go into ensuring you have the best holiday possible. And that rail holiday itself could be any one of a number of different types of holiday. It could be a luxury rail experience, it could be a city break, could be a multi-country or multi-city journey, crossing off some of those destinations that you've always wanted to visit. It could be a tailor-made rail itinerary, or perhaps you have a river cruise already booked for next year and you'd like to extend your holiday and bookend that with some additional travel either before or afterwards. We see lots of people doing that, and that's one of many different types of rail holiday that we can provide. Also, you can look at traveling at any time from today up until 2023. So if you do have that bucket list trip coming up, or you're celebrating a special occasion, or you just know it's going to be a busy time when you're looking to travel, then you can secure those dates and get everything confirmed anytime up until 2023. And that goes for any destination, any date, for any length of time. So if the train goes there, then so do we. We do have a number of digital brochures available via our website that you can download and peruse. We've got our main Railbookers brochure with a selection of our top selling holidays around the globe, but we've also got a variety of different brochures this year, including travel closer to home, luxury rail journeys, and some ideas on cruise extensions as well. So lots and lots of different ideas available. If you're interested in having a look, railbookers.co.uk once again is the place to go to. And why book now? Well, we're offering maximum flexibility to all customers booking new reservations with us. You've got the freedom to change your dates, the duration of your holiday, or even the final destination if you need to at any point up until 60 days prior to departure, and that's without incurring any change or cancellation fees to do so. Now, one of the ways that we aim to take the complexity out of rail holidays is we work directly with all of the main rail operators around the globe in Europe, North America, and beyond. And here you can see a selection of not just our partners, but our friends and colleagues across the globe in Italy with our friends at Trenitalia, Deutsche Bahn, SNCF, Eurostar, where many of our holidays begin, of course, and across the pond with Amtrak, Via Rail in Canada, and many, many more. And what this allows us to do is it means, firstly, we always have access to the best available pricing for you, very important, of course. But not only that, that's also how we're able to offer all of these holidays up to 2 years in advance, meaning that if you want to secure your reservation, your booking at a busy time, then you can go ahead and do that. And also, you're going to be confirming it at the current year's pricing, so you miss out on any price increases that might happen over the next 2 years. Now, one question that we're being asked a lot at the moment for very obvious reasons is how rail operators are maintaining a safe travel environment, and that's whether it's mainland Europe or in the USA as well. And the answer to that is by doing a number of different things. Firstly, facial coverings are required both in train stations and on board trains for all passengers and staff. The already existing cleaning and sanitation measures, well, they've been increased again, both at the stations and on board the trains. And where it's possible to do so, they're carrying out contactless ticket control through email and on apps, wherever that can be done too. So just a selection of some of the measures that are being taking place at the moment to keep things as safe as they possibly can be. Anyway, that's the main part of not the main part, rather, that's the introduction out of the way. We're coming to the main part now, of course, aren't we? And we're going to look at some of our most popular holidays by train that allow you to discover and explore the USA. And this is the first one we're going to look at, our jazz, blues, and rock and roll holiday. And this would be perfect if you're a music lover, but even if you're not, there's lots and lots to explore in these fantastic destinations. The holiday starts in Chicago, where you'd arrive and have a two-night stay in the Windy City, capital of Illinois, of course. And then you would travel down to Memphis by train, spending one night on board Amtrak. You'd have a two-night stay in Memphis, and then after that, you would head down to New Orleans, which is all done in the one day. And you spend 3 nights in New Orleans before continuing your onward journey, either returning home or perhaps extending the trip if you'd like to. We also include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour in Chicago. Great way of getting to know the destination and being transported to all of the main places of interest. A sightseeing tour of Memphis, including admission to Graceland. And we also have a cruise in New Orleans aboard a paddle wheel boat, one of those iconic must-do trips when you're there. So let's take a closer look at the destinations that you'll be visiting on this particular holiday. We'll do that for each of the holidays we look at today, and then we'll take a little look at what life is like on board Amtrak as we get towards the end of the webinar. So for anyone wanting to see what the trains are like, don't worry, that's coming up. So stay tuned. And on this particular holiday, we begin things in Chicago, of course, known as the Windy City, and famous for its architecture, as you can see here. It has a skyline punctuated by skyscrapers and also benefits from a really beautiful setting on Lake Michigan. After Chicago, the next port of call is Memphis, famous for blues, soul, and rock and roll. In fact, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, BB King's Blues Club, which you can visit if you head down to Memphis, and lots of other places of musical significance as well. You can visit Sun Studios, where Elvis and Johnny Cash made some of their first recordings, and we also include in our tour of Memphis on this particular holiday, a visit out to Graceland as well. So if you'd like to know more about how Elvis lived and all of those kind of things, then this certainly allows you to find out all you'd like to know there. But lots and lots to see and do. And as I say, if you are a big music lover, it really is it's a music city, Memphis. There's always lots of interesting things going on. While you're there, and indeed the same goes for any of our destinations, you can, of course, upgrade your hotel at any point. And here's an example of how you could do that. In Memphis, you have the option to upgrade to a number of properties, including the Peabody Hotel, which you can see here, a real Memphis icon. It opened all the way back in 1869, and it's known as the South's Grand Hotel. So just to explain a little bit about how hotels work with our holidays here, most of the itineraries, the holidays that you see, will be based on either 3 or 4-star hotels. But of course, we know that often people might like to upgrade at certain points, and you can do that as often or as little as you like, basically. For example, we often find that people are celebrating a special occasion while they're away, perhaps a birthday or an anniversary, something special, and they might like to upgrade in the one destination where that date falls, which is no problem at all. You don't need to upgrade your hotels all the way through your trip if you don't want to. One destination is absolutely fine. Equally, if you'd like to upgrade throughout and have a true 5-star experience, that's of course absolutely fine as well. Similarly, if you're happy with 3 stars or 4 stars, that's fine too. Whatever's right for you, all you need to do is let us know. We have a number of centrally located 3, 4, and 5-star properties in each destination. So if you would like to upgrade the hotel in any or all of the destinations, all you need to do is make sure you mention that when you get in touch. And the final destination on this particular holiday is New Orleans, of course, famously known as the Big Easy. And it's known for many things, New Orleans, really, isn't it? Everything from Creole cuisine to jazz music, of course, which is where it fits in on this particular holiday. The Mardi Gras Carnival, too. And also, it's a real melting pot of different cultures from French, African, and American. And here, in fact, you can see this wonderful building, which is in the French Quarter. And this is St. Louis Cathedral, which is the oldest cathedral that's still in continuous use in North America. And also, I got the fascinating chance to explore New Orleans from the water as well. We've got the paddle boat cruise, which we include on this particular holiday. So whatever it is you're interested in, doesn't have to be music, can be food, history, architecture, or just exploring a unique and interesting destination. New Orleans has got absolutely something for everybody. But I think this particular holiday, if you are interested in music at all, this is a really good one to visit, and lots and lots to see and do and explore. Okay, the next holiday that we will look at is our American Heritage holiday. And again, lots of reasons to visit these wonderful destinations. But if you are a lover of history, then this could be a good one for you in particular. The holiday begins in Boston, Massachusetts, with a 2-night stay. And then we have all of these train journeys on this holiday are all by day. And they're all, a couple of hours each. So the first port of call from Boston is heading down to New York City for a 3-night stay there. Then we head on to Philadelphia and spend 2 nights in Philly before carrying on to Washington, D.C. to finish up with a 2-night stay there. Along the way, we include hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tours in Boston, New York, and Washington. Great way of orientating yourself, getting your bearings, and seeing some of the main sites, and of course, spending time at the places that interest you and less time in the places that don't. As well as that, we include New York City Pass, also Philadelphia Pass, which both get you access to a huge number of museums, places of interest, really, really good value. And we include dinner one night in New York at the View restaurant as well. So lots and lots included. Again, let's take a closer look at the destinations you would be visiting on this particular holiday. And first up, it's Boston. And here we can see the harbor area. And Boston actually has a really iconic harbor walk that you can do. The full length is about 40 miles long, so you probably won't be doing all of it. But it's a really interesting walk that you can take along the harbor area, looking out to sea and also looking over the skyline as well. And Boston, it's also rich in history. There's many museums that you can visit and other places of interest. And if you're a sports fan, it's home to the famous Boston Red Sox to play at Fenway Park, which is the oldest baseball ground in the USA. So lots and lots of different activities and things that you can get up to in Boston. Next place that you visit is New York City, and I love this bird's eye view looking down onto Central Park. It's absolutely fantastic, I think. And New York, of course, is one of these great places that whether it's your first time visiting or you've been there several times before, there's always lots and lots of different things that you can do, different parts of the city that you can explore, different neighborhoods, of course. And that could be anything from strolling around Central Park, heading to the zoo, going over to the Statue of Liberty on Staten Island, really interesting museum out there, taking in the views from the top of the Empire State Building, lots and lots of different activities, shopping, of course, there's all manner of activities you can get up to in the Big Apple. And the next port of call is Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, if you are a real history buff, then there's lots and lots of interesting places to see and visit here. It's home to many famous sites from the American Revolution. You can see the Liberty Bell, for example, or head over to Independence Hall, where they first signed the Declaration of Independence and indeed the Constitution as well. And throughout the city, there's a number of interesting buildings and statues like this one. This particular one is of Commodore Barry, who was a naval commander during the American Revolutionary War. So lots and lots of history there. If you are interested in that at all, then Philadelphia is definitely a must visit from that point of view. And then last but very much not least, we head to the capital, Washington, D.C., home, of course, to the Capitol building, the White House, of course, and the Supreme Court, amongst other things. And here, this obelisk that we can see is the monument built to commemorate George Washington, who of course was the first president, wasn't he, of the USA. So lots to see and visit here. Again, very easy to get around and explore in Washington. And we have the hop on hop off tour here as well, just to make things as easy as they possibly can be. So, like I mentioned, this particular holiday would be perfect for anyone who loves history, or indeed anyone who likes visiting interesting destinations. All very, very easily connected along the East Coast corridor, all just a matter of hours away from each other. So, nice, comfortable journeys by daytime. Enjoy the passing scenery by day, and very, very easy to travel from city centre to city centre in each case. And we've looked at some interesting cities so far, but of course, one of the other types of holiday that I know lots of people are looking forward to being able to take again is heading out to some of the wide open spaces that we all enjoy. And certainly in the USA, there's plenty of those that you can visit with the wonderful national parks. And here we have our Grand National Parks holiday, which includes some of the most beautiful ones that you can visit. We've got Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon National Park on this particular holiday. So here the journey begins first of all in Chicago. And to start off with, you'd be traveling overnight on Amtrak before having one night in Salt Lake City. Now, this is a really interesting journey that you would be taking, and I'll come back to this in a little more detail on the next holiday that we'll look at, because it's got some great scenery. So you'd have one night in Salt Lake City, as I mentioned, and from there you'd shuttle on to Yellowstone National Park, where you would have a two-night stay and lots of opportunity to explore the national park there. And then you would carry on board Amtrak from Salt Lake City again spending one night on board before arriving in San Francisco for a two-night stay. And on one of the days, you take a shuttle between San Francisco and Yosemite National Park, where you can explore a very different type of open space, but equally beautiful. Then after leaving San Francisco behind, you travel down by daytime along the coastline on the Coast Starlight train. Great views of out to sea and the coast, west coast there. And you arrive into Los Angeles for an overnight stay to break up the travel. And then from there, you carry on by train to Williams for an overnight stay. And then the next day, travel on the famous Grand Canyon Railway to the Grand Canyon National Park, where you'd have an overnight stay in the South Rim. Lots of opportunity to explore, have a guided tour to take you to some of the best photo spots and most beautiful sights in the Grand Canyon National Park before heading back to Chicago, traveling overnight on board Amtrak. So let's take a closer look at some of these national parks and some of the beautiful wide open spaces that you can visit on this particular holiday. And first up, it's Yellowstone. And Yellowstone was actually the world's first national park. Originally, it was formed from the remains of an extinct volcano that exploded around about 600,000 years ago, so quite a long time. And it's famous for wonderful scenery like you can see here, alpine lakes, mountain peaks, hot springs, and of course the famous geyser Old Faithful that you might have seen pictures of spurting up into the skyline. In terms of wildlife, what could you hopefully expect to see? Well, with a bit of luck, you might see animals like elk, bears, and even wolves as well in Yellowstone. So lots of different types of wildlife call Yellowstone National Park home. And hopefully there'll be some of the types of animals that you might get to see visiting this particular national park. After arriving in San Francisco, the next national park that you would visit would be Yosemite. And as hopefully you can see here from this particular image, it's a different type of landscape, different types of scenery, abundant pine forests, waterfalls, very, very famous for waterfalls, as you can see at the back here as well, in Yosemite, and again, the mountain peaks as well. And of course, similar types of wildlife to Yellowstone as well. So again, very, very beautiful, lovely wide open spaces, and a different feel. Hopefully that comes across from the two images. I think they complement each other very, very well indeed. And Then from San Francisco, you would travel by day along the Coast Starlight route to Los Angeles, where you would break the journey in the City of Angels. And here is Griffith Observatory, which is a fantastic point to look out over the city and take in views from the skyline there. Featured in a great number of films, of course, this location, so you might recognize it even if you haven't been over there before. And then from LA, you would travel on to Williams for an overnight stay. And then from Williams, you would travel to the Grand Canyon National Park by means of the wonderful heritage railway, the Grand Canyon Railway, which you can see here. And this is a really interesting journey. Takes you through beautiful pine forests all the way to the South Rim. There's lots of interesting kind of quirky little touches that they have to make it a real experience as you travel. And if you kind of close your eyes, you can almost think you are traveling back in time to a certain extent. So a really interesting journey. Arrives at the South Rim, and then of course you're in the perfect location to explore the Grand Canyon National Park. And just take a look at that. It doesn't really need any introduction, does it? Famous all over the world. South Rim's the best place to be for the best views and best experience altogether. And you would have a full tour over there with a guide who'll take you around to all the best vantage points. So you get best photo opportunities, best chance to relax and admire the scenery, and some free time as well, just to take it all in and enjoy. So for some of the wonderful wide open spaces and national parks, if you'd like to head over to the USA and explore those, again, that could be a really nice option. Now, I mentioned when we were looking at that particular holiday that I would come back to the train journey. And this is the holiday where I'll do that, and I'll talk about it in a little more detail for you. This is our Great American Majestic Landscapes holiday. And here we start off in New York City on the East Coast and finish on the West Coast in San Francisco. Now, one of the questions that we get asked from time to time by people who are interested in traveling to the USA, and more specifically, traveling from coast to coast, is what's the best way of doing it? And well, there's a number of possible answers you could give to that, because there's a few different ways that you can travel across the USA. But if we're talking about scenery, and what's the most scenic train journey, the most interesting way of doing it, I think this is the one that we'd have to go for. And don't just take our word for it. Our good friend, the man in seat 61, he shares the same opinion. Some absolutely spectacular scenery on this journey. So how it works is, first of all, you'd have 2 nights in New York on arrival. Then you would travel overnight on board the Lakeshore Limited to Chicago, which is quite an interesting journey in itself. But it's after you leave Chicago, you'd have 2 nights there, that things start to get really interesting. Excuse me, this is where you would travel on board the California ZEPHYR. And this journey would be all the way through to San Francisco, but it would be broken in two by a 2-night stay in Denver. So you have 2 nights in Denver in the middle, and included in that 2-night stay would be a sightseeing tour out to Rocky Mountain National Park. Again, really, really stunning. And then you would head on to San Francisco, where you would finish things up with a wine tasting tour in Napa Valley. So perfect way to relax at the end of the holiday. And it's the scenery on the California ZEPHYR that's absolutely stunning. So we'll return to this journey in just a second and talk a little bit more about exactly what you'd get to see and where the train travels through. So it's New York, of course, where the holiday begins. Again, another great viewpoint from Central Park. And as we mentioned before, just so much to see, do, and explore in that great destination. You would travel overnight on board the Lakeshore Limited before arriving in Chicago. I mentioned the stunning skyline, another great viewpoint from that here, and a great way to see it from the river too. There's also a really good architecture tour that you can do in Chicago, so well worth asking about that as well, because it's absolutely fascinating. And then after leaving Chicago, this is where you would board the California ZEPHYR. And the scenery on this journey is absolutely stunning. So again, a reminder that it's bookends your stay in Denver. So you travel on the California ZEPHYR through the day, and then overnight arrive in Denver, 2 night stay there, including a trip out to Rocky Mountain National Park. And then you would carry on again by day, overnight on board the train, and then carry on the next day through to San Francisco. And this train journey, it covers much of the original first historic transcontinental railroad in the US. And in terms of what you'll actually see, on the first day, you'll travel through the farmlands of Nebraska, you'll cross the Mississippi, and then you'll reach Denver. So you leave the train, have your 2 nights there. And then when you arrive back to board the train, the scenery just gets better and better from this point. So you get to see views like, get to see the Rocky Mountains, canyons in Colorado, the fir-covered mountains of the Sierra Nevada, and more. And the good news is all of those things I've mentioned, you see all these by daylight. Even though it's an overnight journey on board the train in each case, you really do get to experience all those by daylight. And the fascinating thing is that, I think anyway, is that because you're traveling through a number of different states on this particular journey, and a variety of really changing landscapes, completely different scenery in lots of cases, it really does give you that feeling of travel, and that feeling of traveling through a changing country and changing landscape. And it makes the journey part of the overall holiday, not just a means of getting from A to B because you have to, but also a really interesting and enjoyable part of the overall experience. And you can see here on this great image on the screen now that you get to see parts of the country that's just difficult to do by other forms of transportation. So really is, we would say the most scenic journey in the USA, particularly because you get a variety of different landscapes, which makes it really, really special. Now, we shouldn't forget to mention, of course, that you would, on this holiday, get to visit Rocky Mountain National Park as well. Again, famous for its lakes, as you can see here, mountains, you can see here too. And again, a variety of different wildlife, from elk to moose and lots of other interesting creatures too. Here you'd have a fully guided tour, which will take you to all of the highlights. Again, best photo opportunities, beautiful views, such as you travel along the shores of Grand Lake and all the way up to the summit of the Continental Divide as well. So lots and lots of great places to visit on this particular holiday, and great views and scenery that you can enjoy. And then once you've reached San Francisco, to reward yourself for traveling all the way across the US, you can relax and enjoy a Napa Valley wine tour. Perfect way to unwind after the travel. And of course, do a little bit of sampling. I think that's what's just to be expected. And if you'd like to take some souvenirs back home with you, of course, you'd have the opportunity to do that as well. So a lovely way to unwind. And as I mentioned before, we get lots of people asking, I'd like to travel coast to coast, how would you recommend doing it? This is a great way because you've got wonderful scenery, great places to stop off along the way, and visit Rocky Mountain National Park and the wonderful scenery of the California ZEPHYR. So highly, highly recommended this one. And next up, we'll look at our all-American itinerary. And if you like the idea of some of the different destinations and places we've looked at so far today, this could be a really nice idea if you're looking for something a little bit longer. It's 17 days, this one, because it features a lot of the different journeys and also destinations that we've already spoken about. So the journey would begin and end in Chicago. And then to begin with, you'd have 1 night on board Amtrak on the Lakeshore Limited, like we saw on the last holiday, but this time traveling in the other direction towards New York for a 3-night stay in New York City. Then after leaving New York, you'd spend 1 night on board Amtrak, again on board the Crescent train, as you head down to the Big Easy, New Orleans, for a 2-night stay there. So time to immerse yourself in jazz, Creole, and all of those wonderful activities. And then you'd spend 2 nights on board Amtrak as you head across a number of different states, as you can see there, heading through Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, all the way up to Los Angeles, where you would change trains and then travel up by day along the west coast on the coast Starlight for wonderful views of the coastline. A really, really nice journey, that one, before arriving in San Francisco for a 2-night stay. And then from here, you would actually do the journey that we looked at on the last holiday on the Empire Builder, but in reverse. You travel from San Francisco overnight to Denver, have your 2-night stay in Denver, visit Rocky Mountain National Park, and then back on the California ZEPHYR once again, and then travel overnight again before arriving into Chicago, where we bring things to a close. And of course, all the activities that we've mentioned, the hop-on, hop-off tours, the sightseeing tour in New Orleans, and visit to Rocky Mountain National Park, they will be included as well. So let's take a look at the parts of this holiday that we haven't looked at already on the previous holiday. So this is the Coast Starlight journey between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And as you can see here, it runs really close to the coastline at various points throughout the journey, and you get some great views looking out over the coastline out to sea. A really, really interesting journey. And then at the end of it all, you arrive into San Francisco. So lots of opportunities there to explore, perhaps visit Pier 39 and see the sea lions, maybe head out to explore Alcatraz as well, perhaps. Lots of interesting activities that you can do in this part of the world, of course. And last but not least, we spoke about Rocky Mountain National Park on the last holiday, but we didn't look at Denver itself, the Mile High City. And here you can see the famous concert venue of Red Rocks, really historic venue. Lots of famous names have played here over the years. And the rocks themselves date back hundreds and hundreds of years. Really, really interesting place to visit. Lots and lots of history. Just a unique setting, as I think you can see here as well. So that's a selection of our most popular holidays to the USA. But what about the trains themselves, specifically the long distance trains? What are they like on board? Well, first thing to say is that there's a couple of different types of accommodation. The regular accommodation is called coach class, and that's basically is similar in some ways to travel by day in Europe, for anyone who perhaps has traveled by train in Europe but not in the USA yet, with the exception that the seats are a bit larger, recline a little bit more, get a bit more leg room. So just everything's a little bit bigger, as they say. But often what we find is that for the overnight journeys that we get people asking about upgrading to the sleeping car accommodation, and there's two different types of those. The first one you can see here, this is called a roomette, and this is what it looks like by day. So you have your own private compartment with comfortable seating, sharing a table. You have your own windows to look out and enjoy the scenery. And then during the evening, the attendant will bring the beds down. So you have two beds, a bit like you have on sleeper trains in Europe, one above the other. And the doorway slides across to give you privacy. There's blinds that can come down on the other side, and you can relax and enjoy a night on board the train. The other option from the roomette is called the bedroom, and the big difference here is firstly that you have a little bit more space, but the main reason for that is because the bedroom has its own private ensuite bathroom included in the cabin. So you have your shower, WC, wash basin, everything that you need here. Sleeping wise, you can see it's kind of similar layout really, and very, very slightly larger. If you're in the roomette, just for anyone who's interested, in each carriage there'll be something like 4 or 5 roomettes who will share one bathroom, which is looked after by an attendant to make sure it's all cleaned, etc. Whereas if you're in the bedroom, you have your own private bathroom within the cabin itself. And this is what it looks like by day. So again, you can see it's similar to the roomette, very slightly larger, but otherwise, broadly speaking, it's the similar type of layout. Again, you've got comfortable seating and you can enjoy the scenery as well. Also, on these long distance routes, you have the observation carriages. So if you'd like to enjoy the scenery from there, as you can see, you've got these wonderful windows that reach all the way up to the ceiling pretty much. So they make great vantage points to sit back, relax, and take in the scenery. So you can enjoy them from your cabin. You can enjoy them here as well with some wonderful viewpoints. So it makes a perfect place to sit back and enjoy the varying landscapes that you would be passing through. And of course, there's the onboard dining carriage as well. And it's worth pointing out that if you travel in a roomette or in a bedroom on all these longer journeys overnight, that your meals and coffee, soft drinks are all included in the cost of your ticket as well. So particularly when you're traveling, for a longer period of time, and you're having 3 meals a day, they're all included in the cost of your ticket. Variety of different meals available on board. It's also an interesting place to meet people because when you do travel on one of these long distance trains in the USA, you'll often find people traveling from all over the country, sometimes all over the world indeed, which is really interesting to hear why different people are traveling for different reasons. Also, if you are in a roomette or a bedroom, if you'd rather have your meal in the privacy of your cabin, then you can do that as well. You can order via the cabin attendant, and you can enjoy a meal and or something to drink in the privacy of your own cabin if you prefer. So there we are. That's a little snapshot into life on board Amtrak on some of these long distance journeys. If you'd like to find out more, all of the holidays that we've looked at today can be found at our website. Again, railbookers.co.uk for those perhaps not so familiar. You can either search by the holiday name if you've taken a note of what the holidays were called, or you can just search by destination and see these and many more different suggestions as well. A reminder, there's all the e-brochures available for download as well also. So that brings us almost to the end of the webinar this Tuesday afternoon. But before we do that, we've just got literally a couple of minutes left. So hopefully we'll have time to answer a question or two that's come through. Okay, let's see what we've got. So again, I'll just probably have time for one or two, but if I don't pick yours, don't despair. One of the team will answer your question over the next 24 hours or so. So we'll make sure we get to every single one. Anyway, stop talking, answer some questions. Right, I've got a question here from Linda. Hello, Linda. And Linda is asking, will this webinar be available to rewatch on playback at a later stage, please? The answer to that is yes, Linda, it will be. It will either be, we did one this morning, so it will be one of the two. Not sure if it will be this one, but it's the same, obviously the same slides, the same theme, same presenter, unfortunately, but you can't have everything. And we'll send out a recording to everyone who's put their name down to attend one of these webinars, again within the next day or so, I think. So yes, you'll be able to rewatch, and also that means that if you didn't jot down the holiday name, for example, and you'd like to do that, then you can maybe find the exact holiday on our website a little bit quicker, perhaps. Who knows? Okay, fantastic. We have a question from Peter. Peter, hello there, Peter. And Peter is asking whether all of these holidays are available to book for 2023. The answer to that, Peter, is yes, they are. So as we said at the start, whether you're looking at traveling tomorrow or even today, unlikely, heading all this way afield, I agree. But or next year or into 2023, then yes, they're all available for any of those dates. So you just need to let us know when you'd like to go. And like I said before, if you are traveling at a popular time, whether it's next year or into 2023, or for a special occasion, you want to make sure that you're away for a specific date, then the early bird really does catch the worm for all these kind of things. Okay, perhaps we've got time for another one, maybe. Yeah, let's squeeze another one. Okay, we've got a couple of people asking about whether we can arrange flights over to the USA to and from the UK. The answer to that is yes. We can arrange the flights for you if you would like us to. Just make sure you let us know when you inquire and let us know what you're interested in doing and where you'd like to go to. And we did have someone ask on the webinar this morning, which I thought was an interesting question. So just to cover it, it doesn't make any difference if you're flying into one destination and out of another if you book the flight with us. It's sometimes people think that it's more expensive if you're doing that. It's not. It's still a round trip, so it's an open jaw destination. You're flying into one destination, out of another. It's not a one-way flight to the USA, which can sometimes be more expensive. But flying into one destination, out of another, does not make it more expensive than doing a round trip. So, as that one came up this morning, we'll throw in a bonus question as well. I think that's sadly just about all we have time for. I know there are a few more out there that we didn't get around to, but as I say, we will reach out to each and every one of you to make sure that we answer those. So all that's remaining to say is to say thank you very much for joining us on the webinar today. Hope you've enjoyed it and it's provided some inspiration and food for thought perhaps, or maybe even some happy memories if you've been to some of these places before too. Look after yourself, stay safe, stay well, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And hopefully we'll have the pleasure of your company on another webinar in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.